On this episode of Quanta Talks, we speak to Adrian Wallis, CEO of Lakes Bioscience. Adrian's experience in pharmaceutical manufacturing spans 40 years at organisations such as ICI, now known as AstraZeneca, Novartis, amongst many more. We spoke to Adrian about the current landscape of pharmaceutical manufacturing, its future, the challenges, and the opportunities.
Hi, Faye. I'm Adrian Wallis. I'm the CEO of a startup biotech company called Lakes Bioscience Limited. And Lakes Bioscience are focused on the manufacture of monoclonal antibodies. And we see that mAbs are very much still a growth area in the global market for provision of patient solutions. So we think it's a really great opportunity. Before Lakes Bioscience, I've spent around 40 years working within the pharma and biologics industry in a wide variety of operation projects, program management, and business performance roles in a number of large pharma companies. So I've been around a bit, seen a bit, but still keen to see even more.
You've probably seen a lot of change in that time with the pharma industry.
Oh, absolutely. I started my time with ICI, which then became Zeneca, and then obviously became AstraZeneca. And during that time, I've moved around a number of companies, including Novartis. And I think one of the key parts of the change is that the globalization of the pharma and biologics industry. So companies 40 years ago were much smaller, much more focused. They've now become global, both in terms of their reach and also in terms of the size of the revenue and the impact on society. So, you know, the 40 years have really been very interesting in that respect. I think from a technology perspective, you know, the industry has grown to a point now where it's got some of the best technology, the most advanced technology within certainly manufacturing. Of course, and rightly, you know, the requirements from a regulatory perspective have become greater over the years. So the whole sort of regulatory and quality assurance aspects have increased positively, I think, over the years.
The fact that things are speeding up so fast, even in the last couple of years with technology, is crazy, really. Could you give us an overview of the landscape of the UK's life science, so biopharma and pharma manufacturing industry at the moment?
Look, there's been many successes in the industry, particularly associated with research and development, and that continues to grow. So, you know, in the UK, I think we are absolutely fantastic at research and development. Unfortunately, in the UK's manufacturing capability in biotech and pharma, it's diminished, certainly over the last 20 to 30 years. And whilst the UK 20 years ago, you know, once stood as one of the top 5 countries globally for manufacturing, we now have very little global standing. So consequently, you know, as a country, we're good at R&D, but once these products move to commercialization and their manufacturing actually moves abroad, and that's a real loss, both in terms of jobs that are available, those exciting jobs that are available, and also it's a fundamental loss to UK PLC's revenue. So in many respects, that's one of the reasons why I've, you know, been very keen to start a biotech manufacturing company, and in many respects why we're focused on trying to ensure that some, if not all, of the manufacturing is based in the UK.
What unique opportunities do UK businesses in the manufacturing sector face since Brexit? Has it affected like the talent pool, or?
Again, as I've said, I think within R&D, there's a tremendous talent pool in R&D because of the concentration of R&D in the UK, and particularly in the Golden Triangle, but beyond. But I think the manufacturing presence that I just spoke about, and the fact that we've got limited manufacturing presence and should be growing that is a massive opportunity. From my experience, and I've met many of the people and therefore the talent that works in the bio and pharma industry, and we've got some fantastic UK-based or UK-bred talent. The sad thing is a lot of that migrates overseas at the moment, and they move to where the opportunities exist. So we've seen a lot of migration of our homegrown talent to Ireland, Europe, the US, and Asia. And inevitably, that's the way these things work. If the opportunities exist in those countries, that's where people are going to migrate to. The opportunity here in the UK is to, create a very positive and growing industry again, where we're manufacturing, and we've got the basis for manufacturing, and that'll supply, I think, two things. It will supply opportunities for graduates and young people coming out of college to work in our industry for the first time. And I think also it'll encourage some of those talents that have perhaps gone overseas to return back to the UK. So look, the key is we've got to grow the manufacturing sector. There's an opportunity to do that. There's no doubt that the market for manufacturing exists. It's just from a CDMO perspective, there's a 200 billion global market. And within that global market, it's growing at a rate of 12 to 15% every year. So from that perspective, there's no reason why the UK shouldn't have a very positive sort of manufacturing capability.
And from a like regulatory and compliance side, has that been affected by Brexit at all? Has anything changed regulation-wise?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's as a result of Brexit, but it is clear that the MHRA are acting in a very innovative and progressive way, and in some respects are way ahead of other countries in their ability and their pace to approve new drugs and facilities, whilst maintaining a very high integrity in their expectations. So it would appear to me that the MHRA here in the UK are well ahead of other regulators. And that actually makes the UK a very attractive place to do business.
So if anything, things have maybe improved over the last few years.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. Yes.
It's 2023. I didn't think I'd still be saying the words Brexit, to be honest.
We're all sick of it, and we're all looking for the benefits that are going to come from it.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, another thing that I was sick of talking about, but COVID was obviously it's a major event of the last decade, century. Have you seen a shift in the UK market since the development of the vaccine in the UK?
Yes, I think, a number of things. I think, first of all, the industry's response to the pandemic was fantastic. The speed at which the vaccines were made available to patients was incredible. And certainly, the UK's R&D capability was first class and demonstrated its ability to develop a vaccine or vaccines for COVID. Again, it's back to my earlier theme. Sadly, the ability to manufacture the vaccines relied heavily on supply from outside of the UK. So even though we were right up there in terms of the first development, once it came to manufacturing, much of that manufacturing was actually done outside of the UK. And I think, what COVID has done is it's been a stark reminder of the lack of manufacturing that the UK has, and therefore its lack of resilience to these types of health emergencies. So for me, it's not clear that the UK is substantially better off now compared with pre-pandemic in terms of resilience from a manufacturing perspective. And again, that's one of the reasons we didn't start Lakes Bioscience because of the pandemic. We started the proposition before the pandemic, but what the pandemic has done is it's caused us to redouble our efforts, because we passionately believe that creating more manufacturing in the UK is the right thing for the UK, and the right thing to have a resilient drug supply, particularly when these emergencies come on. But even in the times when there are not those catastrophic emergencies, it's clear that there have been particularly recently drug stockouts for not just life-saving drugs, but for drugs that people rely on a day-to-day basis. So, I think that's a message to us all that says, we've got some great research ideas. We're pushing back the boundaries in many of the therapeutic areas, but we've got to have more capability to manufacture.
Yeah, it would be great to see the UK up there, wouldn't it?
Well, there's an interesting statistic that, for every person that's working in research and development, there's 10 people that ultimately work in manufacturing. So it's a 10-to-1 ratio. So just in terms of the jobs and the talent creation, it really, makes sense.
Another thing that's talked about on top of Brexit and COVID is the global supply chain. It's been a big topic of discussion. What are your company's plans to ensure a secure and efficient supply chain?
The industry it works in a global environment, so it would be crazy, despite my desire to want to have more manufacturing in the UK. We manufacture in the UK, recognizing that we work in a global environment, and that's absolutely right. And over my career, I've spent many years overseas developing and working to improve and increase the kind of breadth and depth of the supply chain globally. So, from a company perspective, we see having a global supply chain as being an absolute key to being sure that we've got a resilience to the shocks that come along, not just the pandemic, but economic shocks, political shocks in the system. And so it's critical, that we've conducted the right due diligence, and particularly we seek to operate with a much more of a partnership approach with our supply chain. So rather than being in a transactional procurement process, we think it's much better to act in a more partnered arrangement, then ties us and our partners into mutual and long-term benefits. So
and in what ways has the UK industry evolved in terms of technological advancements and innovation? And you've probably already answered this, but is it hard to stay competitive in the global biotech market? Like you said, the UK is not up there anymore. There is other countries that are very competitive. Has it been hard to stay competitive due to the advancements?
Yeah, look, the competition in the global market is relentless, because we've got some fantastic people and fantastic companies working out there to not only improve their business, but improve their ability to supply drugs to patient. But for me personally, I'm convinced that the way to stay ahead is by making sure that the quality and assurance of your manufacturing and deliver at the stellar performance level. So that's almost a given, as is continuous improvement around process and technical delivery. So you've almost got to have those as a given. I think in terms of technological advancements, the application of automation and automating processes has been a massive game changer over the last 10 years. It will continue to be so. I think the future of artificial intelligence will start to make a difference, particularly, that connection between automation, manufacturing, and artificial intelligence. And I think performance visualization, and what I mean by that is, I think one of the things I've heard from customers who rely on the supply chain is that what they want is more visibility of the performance of their supplier. So rather than it be a black box of, we make an order, the black box works away, and then at the other end of that black box, some product appears, or sometimes doesn't because of supply chain issues. Our view is that actually having a very clear internal performance visualization that the customer can see means that, creating that partnership is an advantage to our customers. So effectively, they can see the performance of our production facilities as we move forward. And within that, there's always a risk. There's a risk that they can see, delays against our original plans, and we need to be able to manage that in a constructive way rather than it being that black box. So I do think the application of automation, some future artificial intelligence, will enable us to have much more performance visualization with our customers. I think also, I think we've got the capability in the UK, and our talent pipeline is real robust enough, through universities, colleges, the Centre for Process Innovation, CPI, and the life science catapults and accelerators. We've got the basis for a really solid pipeline to be able to not only compete but continue to drive those sort of technological advancements that you alluded to. And ultimately, I think we've got the access to that great talent. So I think as a manufacturer, we want to keep pushing back the boundaries, and we think that in doing that, we will do that in collaboration with some of the technology providers. So rather than just, again, have a transactional approach to life, we see that more as being a collaboration to drive better performance.
I just can't imagine what's going to be happening in 10 years' time with AI.
I don't think any of us do. I wouldn't claim to be an AI expert. I think I'm kind of, there's two parts of it. One is that, it's an opportunity to harness a technology. But, it's clear that we're going to have, the right approach to making sure that, we harness AI rather than the fear that we're kind of all reading about, that AI harnesses us. That's going to require a lot of governance, both in the AI industry, but also it's going to require a lot of governance in terms of its use in our own industries. So within the pharma and biotech industry, we're going to have to sort of have a level of governance and make sure that we keep control rather than that controlling us. But we've all got this fear that cars will start driving themselves and
the robots will take over.
The robots will take over. So, in some respects, but if you look back, it's probably no different to, the many sort of periods of industrial change, that have occurred over the hundreds of years, and the same thing must have been coming when people went from ploughing fields with horses to having a motorized, and the same in terms of every kind of industry of its time, and that's not a reason not to have those advancements. I think it is a warning to make sure that we remain in control of them.
not to be fearful of it. It's how we can actually use it and not have some people take advantage of it. So looking ahead, what trends do you foresee shaping the future of the UK's life science and biopharmaceutical industry?
So my predictions will inevitably kind of align with, my current sort of business interests, I guess. And so specifically, I hope I'll certainly continue to work to try and catalyze manufacturing capability and capacity in the UK. So, one of the things, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is because I fundamentally believe that the UK should have more manufacturing. So, looking ahead, I certainly hope that that's going to continue and grow. I think alongside that, there will be more technology partnering to accelerate the use of some of these novel technologies. So rather than perhaps, again, the transactional kind of, the farmer or a manufacturing company basically supply a particular technology, I think there's more to having a partnership in terms of understanding what the needs are as a manufacturer, and therefore working in a partnered arrangement with our technology providers. And I think that's going to be more and more the trend. Competition will continue to be on a global basis. And, that competition, as I said earlier, was relentless. But I do believe that there will be more collaboration between industry, academia, and the healthcare providers. And I think that's going to be critical as an industry sort of biotech manufacturer. We can provide the right solutions to meet the sort of patient needs and treatments of the future. So, I really do think looking forward, there will be far more collaboration going on across that kind of industry, academia, and healthcare provider. I'm still really positive that the UK, given the quality of the people that we've got in this industry, have got a great opportunity to do more. And we'll continue to try and ensure that the UK as a manufacturing base is as robust and as resilient as the research and development activities we do.
Thank you so much for talking with me.
Big thanks to Adrian for taking the time to discuss this topic with us. If you'd like to get involved with future episodes of Quanta Talks, contact details are in the show notes. Thanks for listening.